The final thing that we'll do is we will have like a little bit of specific training or isolated training. And we typically use, when we're doing this, you have no hands, one hand and two hands when we're doing this as the person on top. So if Chels is on bottom, go this way a little bit, we set them up in mount, and now all Chels has to do is escape in some way. Okay, but the first round, I'm going to bring my hands behind my back. Okay, and whenever we're teaching this, I tell the person to start low down, because
the first thing that happens
and they're going to headbutt the ground, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, so we want to start low down. So we're starting to teach them to be in this position, which is actually better most of the time in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Okay, and now
don't have them put their hands in the belt though, because if somebody bridges too hard, they won't be able to get their hand out, and they'll go right on their shoulder.
Yeah. So the idea of this is we put the hands in. I'm not allowed to use my hands except to stop myself like face planting the ground. Okay, that's the rule. Chels, she can use both of her hands, her legs, whatever she likes, and she just has to get out of this position. So what most commonly you'll see is, like, I'll be over here, and then like it won't even be like a real bridge.
No.
They'll like end up sliding off over here, and they're like,
fine.
it's honestly, it's perfectly fine. Okay, the goal is.
The drill is for the person on the bottom for the most part.
What it does for the person on top is it starts to teach them that it's not about the arms, it's about using like the legs, the hips,
and the
everything,
head,
and the head to maintain that position.
A way to balance.
So that's the first level, okay? And again, they should escape. Everybody. The nice thing about this is like everybody should escape the position.
Yeah, and it's not like there's competition for the person on the top. Like they should expect that the person on the bottom's going to escape. So there's not that weird, clash of ego.
Yeah, there's not like it's almost impossible to hold this position, okay? The next level is you get to use one hand. Now the difference is I'm going to tuck that hand into the belt. Okay, so I'm completely isolating it so I don't get to use it. I have one hand free, so you should be pretty safe when you do this. And again, with my hand, I can kind of utilize it how I like. Okay, so it adds an extra level of difficulty. So I can be posting out here, I can be like trying to cross face her, I can be low and heavy, I can do whatever I like with it. Chels still can use both hands.
Same thing. I'm just trying to escape.
What you'll find is, more commonly than not, they'll like block this arm that's tied into the belt, and then they'll bridge up over this way, and you'll be like, oh, they escape from there. And that's actually fine as well. Like they've isolated out one of the arms through the own person doing something, and they've used the bridge to escape. That's the most common thing that you'll see in that situation. Okay. Then the final level.
It's just normal.
It's just normal mount specific training. So I'm here, I'm low, okay, I'm trying to plant those hands up, and she's just trying to escape from there.
And in that one, you might have to do that one 3 or 4 or more times just to get those people on the bottom really moving the person with your hips. Like it's fine to do it more than once. Remember that even though you would be bored doing it, they're not, because it's brand new. Yeah. So they are happy to just go on the bottom of mount and do this over and over and over again because it's so new.
Yeah. The other thing that we're showing in this position is when someone can use both hands, they start to realize how dominant mount can be as well. Because even though the person on top has no clue about what they're doing, we'll talk to them about keeping the knees wide potentially. Even that we don't necessarily often include. The only thing that I might include is turning the foot out, as opposed like keeping the feet in, which is an important safety thing, so you don't want to get bridged over the top. But they start to realize that it's a very tough position to escape, and they don't want to be there. And that relates back to our positional hierarchy that we're talking about through this entire thing.
The other thing this is really good for is, I don't think that there's another position in jiu-jitsu that's more claustrophobic than mount. And you've worked up to, it's kind of like therapy. You're kind of working up to the point where it's heavy and scary and strong, and like anybody who's going to be afraid has kind of been exposed to it slowly. And then by the time it gets heavy and it gets strong, it's not scary anymore because they've had all those little steps coming up to it. And you'd be really surprised how often claustrophobia and like that fear of having somebody on top of you smothering you can become a real problem for people. Yeah. So this is a way to kind of like expose them to that without it being scary and overwhelming.